After all the configuring, it is now time for a little bit of testing. We're going to ping from router 2, send some interesting traffic over to 3, and see what happens. And that is going to be as simple as ping 10113, and that's not a good message at all. Crypto IKMP mode failure. And since we're just configuring crypto and it failed, our lab is a failure. Well, our lab is not a failure, but we have one little thing we need to change. Now, I usually do not do this in a lab, but what I did do is make sure that one of our policy values in IKE phase 1 didn't match. You probably caught it when I did it because my bulldogs catch stuff like that. But in case you didn't, I want to give you a great real-world tip. You won't be able to use it on the exam, but it's a great real-world tip for spotting what an issue is. Now, I did go ahead and tell you that this is an IKE phase 1 issue. And if you looked up this message, which of course you won't be able to on the exam, but the first thing you would do in a real world is look up what processing of informational mode failed with peer means. And the very first match you're going to get, as of today, is on Cisco's website where they have, they have their forums, their troubleshooting forums. Someone asked the question and said, well, there's an IKE phase 1 issue. Make sure that your values in your ISAKMP policies match up. Another clue that you might have an issue here is the output of show crypto ISAKMP SA. Now I could also run here IPsec SA, and I want to show these two next to each other just as a quick reminder that anytime you put ISAKMP in a command, you're looking for information on IKE phase 1, and when you see IPsec, it's IKE phase 2. So you get a lot of information here with show it crypto IPsec SA, and you think, hey, it must be working or I wouldn't get any output. Well, here's the problem. There's some good information here, and we will come back to the output of show crypto IPsec SA again. But the big problem is that your packet end caps and your decaps are at zeros, 0, 0. Your end caps aren't going well, your decrypts and your decaps aren't going well, but your send errors, that's the good news. That number's going up. It's like the old saying, we lose money on every sale, but we make up for it in volume. Well, here, the one thing that's incrementing, obviously, is send errors because everything else is at 0. I did send a couple of pings across during our break, and of course, we got errors then too. So just to prove that, let's see what happens if I send another ping here. And we do still get that message, and we'll just wait for that to time out at this point. Almost, and there we go. So now if we run show IPsec SA, you're going to see that send errors has incremented to 25, and we certainly know why. We're sending 5 ICMP packets out and they're not getting protected, and nothing is going right. But one thing I want to show you about the IPsec SA, the ISAKMP SA, is this state. Because sometimes, active is good and sometimes active is bad, that kind of thing. Back with EIGRP route states from your CCNA studies, that kind of thing. Well, no state is not good at all. The by the way, stands for main mode. And that means basically we got stuck in main mode. It's no state. If this said something like QM idle, which is what we're actually aiming for, QM of course would be for quick mode, which is IKE phase 2, and it would be idle and would actually be in good shape if we saw that. But no state is never good, and again, anytime you see the in front of the state here, that's indicating main mode. So that's where our problem is. Now for that real world solution, we know that the problem is in one of the values that I put in during a policy. IKE phase 1, it's got to be an encryption mismatch, a hash mismatch, authentication, Diffie-Hellman group, or something askew with lifetime, but we know that doesn't have to be an exact match. Now you could do this. You could just run show run, and you look at your policy here at the top, and you look at it, and you just for a second you say, should that space be between AES and 256? And yes, it should be. You look at that, and then you go over and you look at the policy on 3, but you don't have them on the screen at the same time. And that's really what you need to do. Looking at it in one router and then flipping over to the other and not looking at them side by side, that's not a good way to spot an IKE phase 1 issue. The way to do it is just to go ahead and copy this from one router and then copy it from another and paste them both into Notepad, which I just happen to have right here. And I got the font as big as I could, so we still have the 2 on there. And the top one's router 2, the bottom one's router 3, and I'm sure it will take you about 3 seconds to see where the mismatch is. But this is how you got to do it. Don't do the flip thing, as I call it. You go to router 2, you go to your first router, look at the config, say, oh, that looks fine. Then you go over to the other router, and you say, oh, that looks fine. Put them next to each other, and you'll spot the issue quickly. Now, you and I know that the lifetime is not an issue because router 2 is the initiator and its lifetime is larger than that of the recipient, 70,000 to 60,000. So we know that. But, you know, it's a good exam question. And the first thing that you would say is, okay, where's the mismatch that matters? And the mismatch that matters is the hash, because when I was configuring router 2, I set the hash to SHA-512, and when I wrote the policy over here on router 3, I set the hash to SHA-256. And SHA, that's why I don't have a VPN right now. That's why everything is failing. So this also gives us a chance to go over and do a little bit of editing. And you're going to see that is really straightforward stuff. Crypto ISACemp policy 1. And I'm just going to overwrite the previous hash and enter SHA-512. And that's it. So I'll do a show crypto map, and we see everything we expect to see. And what I really wanted to do, though, was do a show crypto ISACemp policy. And you see we've got AES secure hash standard to 512-bit. Everything else remains the same. So things are looking good, but you know what we got to do? We got to send a ping across, and it's got to go across. And there we go. You can see that we lost the first packet. That's typical of a ping anyway, but especially when the VPN has to be built. If we send another ping right now, all 5 will go through. So our site-to-site VPN is operational. Let's go ahead and run a couple of our show commands. And we will run show ISACemp SA first. And this is what we want to see. We want to see QM underscore idle and then a status of active there at the end. That means that everything's great with our SA from router 2 to router 3 as far as IKE phase 1 is concerned. Pardon me. There's nothing under IP version 6 because, of course, we didn't do anything under IP version 6. Let's do an IPsec here. And we see pretty much the same values, but the good thing is here's your number of endcaps and encrypts and decaps and decrypts, and we have 9 out of the 10. We did have the 1 packet fail, but you'll notice the good thing is, of course, that send errors 26 is not incrementing any longer. So we can do those, and you're going to see the information about anything that we chose when we created our transform set. We're not going to go through all of this. We're going to save that for some future studies, but the big thing to watch is your endcaps and your decaps. Are they incrementing or are they not? Let's go ahead, and you will also see, even if you didn't choose, say, AHSAS, you're still going to have a feel for it. It'll just be empty. So let's see. Let's do a show crypto map. Anything different there once it's up? No, not really. You're going to see the exact same information. But again, show crypto, ISACemp SA. That's what we want to see, and we want to see a state of QM for quick mode idle. We do not want to see main mode no state, because if you ain't got no state in main mode, well, you ain't got no VPN. There, it's the last time I'll say ain't. So let's see. I tell you what, we're going to stop here for a moment, and coming up next, I'm going to write 1 or 2 more of these and show you some debug output when things aren't going as we'd like. And then we're going to cut over to our Cisco GUI, our first Cisco GUI here in the course, and we'll build a VPN that way as well. That's all coming up in the next couple videos. See you there.